So the next question, which we have been asked by LPC grads who either sit QLTS, OSCE or SQE2 assessment or plan to sit, to which extent you have to revise the substantive law. And secondly, was LPC standard of knowledge enough in a sense of practice areas like business, property, probate, civil litigation, criminal litigation, enough as against the assessments, and also to which extent you can employ your knowledge from electives or maybe your practical experience. So let's maybe start with the substantive law. So it's relevant. To which extent maybe you don't have to remember it as well as you, for example, prepared for LLB exams, but you need, for example, to know a contract pretty well because it's super relevant for a range of areas of law and primary for civil litigation. So you should know some concepts: mistake, duress, frustration, all of that, discharge of contracts, etc. Completely relevant, because you would have to argue your case and they will integrate it into the questions, so it will go side by side with your knowledge of the civil procedure. So it is completely relevant for civil litigation. For those who see the SQE assessment as a guidance, you can rely on those combinations which are assessed at SQE 1 stage. So within those area of law, which combined with the substantive law, they really correlate. So I think they subdivided in this nature. For criminal litigation, you definitely need to revise criminal offenses and also elements of offense. For probate, you have to revise trust. Trust might be also relevant to business, so, and especially focusing on fiduciary duties and trustees' duties, breach of trust, this sort of elements. Then for business, I think those who had an elective in equity finance or related corporate finance, it's great. It might be useful to reasonable extent. We will talk in a second about that. Then business can also have issues related to contracts, same as property. Property also has trust element, as you know, everything especially related to co-ownership or this sort of things. So it also might be useful there. So yes, main substantive law areas, maybe with a small reservation to EU law. I don't really know what's going to be, and we made an inquiry with SRA if it's going to be covered at SQE2 and to which extent, and as soon as we have some guidance I will let you know. But I think all even consti and admin law is relevant. For example, it can come up in criminal, all which is relevant to arrest, you know, and human rights as well, quite within the criminal law. As to main areas of law, I must say, you know, I failed my first attempt. As I've mentioned, I completely relied on my LPC and it was stupid, of course, so I lost money and had to sit it again, to resit it. Those who sit SQE, you know, you have very limited number of attempts, and those who sit QLTS OSCE, you have just this year to clear it. So be careful. Some questions which I had at the exam, and this is completely confidential, so I may not and must not disclose it, but certain principles on which I was tested after the exam, when I checked my LPC Hangouts, I saw that, for example, for one of them, it was specifically written beyond the course, so we didn't cover. It was just mentioned as a one word or something, one sentence. But I had the question where it was a fair part of that question. Secondly, certain principles which we covered at the LPC, we didn't go to such an extent as it was tested at the exam. So after my first attempt, I had to reread a lot of chapters, but very, you know, specifically. So I went to compare guidance then provided for the QLTS OSCE exam. Now we will consider briefly one. as against what I had at LPC. And wherever I had gaps, I just did extra reading. Extra reading, we will talk about the preparation on the next slide, but extra work is required. Another thing, electives and extra knowledge which you might have due to your practice. So electives, to some extent, some of them may be applicable, like, as I said, corporate finance, which I had at my Nottingham Law School, was very helpful for business in general. I had also advanced civil litigation. I don't think it was that helpful, and the problem is I went too much with one of my answers due to my extra knowledge from advanced civil litigation and from my actual practice. So just be careful with your extra knowledge. Remember, they assess you as per the standard of a newly qualified solicitor. It's not at that high standard. You don't have to advise to very details with some very niche specific issues. Just indicate to them that you know, but show them that you know basics. They want to make sure that all the solicitors at least have this level of knowledge. So with that, you should be careful. Let's quickly have a look at the guidance which is provided by SRA in the same statement of solicitor's competence, now not as to the skills, now as to the knowledge. So we have a statement of legal knowledge which provides the guidance of what needs to be covered. Don't worry, it's not very detailed, sometimes quite general, but you know, the books reflect the same reality, so you can just have a look at the context of the books and read those chapters which you think you haven't covered appropriately during the LPC, or maybe beyond the LPC. What you don't know, just do extra reading. We mainly covered during the LPC limited liability companies. Almost 80 or even 90% of business law was about companies. For example, for the exams, it's completely relevant also to cover partnerships, actually both traditional and LLP. You can have many questions on those. You should be quite aware of the Partnerships Act, and that's as as a comparison. Same applies to sole trader, so all other forms which we didn't do during the LPC, including joint ventures. So your first thing is to identify the gaps and rectify them. Let's actually now go to the last question, how to prepare. So first of all, find your LPC notes. They're extremely helpful, made by you, so you understand the logic much better. If I were you, I would rewrite them again, because when you write down anything, so many memories in handwriting, don't type, so many memories involved. So you repeat it, you rewrite it a couple of times, you just do the revision by means of rewriting, even if you don't try to memorize. Also try to make them maybe in the form of mind maps, so that there are many things which you have to memorize. In the exam, you won't have much time. Time is the most essential, one of the most essential things for the exams. If you don't have LPC notes, we can help you with that. Otherwise, LPC books may be of big assistance. Again, you understand now that you should do extra reading. I suggest for QLTS OSCE, Oxford University Press, or OOP or CLP, College of Law Publishing, both very good. For SQE, you are more lucky. Oxford University Press develops amazing manual. I highly recommend. And Oxford University Press also makes multiple choice questions. All of that is not expensive, so you can directly buy from them, and maybe we will integrate on our platform, because we have a platform for simulations and for mock stations, but we possibly will integrate it. We'll see how it goes depending on the demand. Otherwise, you can just buy it from them. It's cheap, and multiple choice question, even though you might be exempt from SQE1, you still can use it as a revision tool. because the SQE1 and the multiple choice questions there is super complex, super well written, and Oxford University Press has been doing it for a while already. So I think it's a great tool for those who go for SQE to buy the specific manual developed for SQE by UP. They are finishing it, not yet there, but you will have it before you start your preparation. And finally, and I think the most essential, mock stations. This exam, it's very, very practical and the best exam I've ever had. I really enjoyed it, especially my second attempt, because first it was more like stress and many surprises. But when I was well prepared, yeah, it's very good exam and enjoyable, and I had an opportunity to employ my different knowledge, different skills. You know, you have to react simultaneously. It's very interesting exam, but it's still an exam, and it has all exam techniques. It's not 100% a reality. Maybe that even your law firm doesn't do this sort of work. So it all depends. I think to be on the safe side, you should attend a couple of mocks with individual marking. All the suggested answers do not really work, and if you want just to practice with the suggested answers, there's a Silex past papers. I will leave a link to our website for QLTS OSCE, where you can find a lot of free resources. So Silex past papers sort of mocks with the suggested answers. You don't have to buy those from providers, but for individual marking, at least some, you should get it. You should understand how it works. So when you come to the assessment, you know what to do step by step. Again, interview is super essential, writing is super essential. Drafting, it depends, because there are many documents to draft, maybe more essential to focus on particular sort of forms or drafts which may come up at the assessment instead of going for many mocks, but it depends on your budget. Research for QLTS OSCE, very similar to what we had at the LPC, just maybe extra issues. For SQE it will be slightly different. We developing mocks for that now. Advocacy presentation, so presentation applies to QLTS, otherwise for SQE only advocacy. It depends on your experience. Again, think what they can assess within this time frame, like 15 minutes, and think what sort of application may be done in this time frame. This might be helpful. Otherwise, just come for our course. Basically, I did the same homework while preparing for the QLTS assessment, and now we just improve it. So, but you can sort of assess it on your own, and again, you can save maybe money on advocacy. But if you didn't have experience in advocacy, especially in the UK, then I think it would be very helpful to have a couple of sessions, because this is actually one of the assessments on which you can score 100-100. It's not extremely difficult, and you can more or less know. You just need to know what to say step by step, your structure and everything. I hope this is helpful. I'm waiting for your questions. I'm very happy that this exam is going to happen, and it eventually opens the route to many of my friends with whom I did LPC and who well deserve to be qualified solicitors in England and Wales, but just were unlucky to have the training contract. Be smart. You can do it.